Greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this patch video for Thief Lord from the website Royal Road. This patch video will contain chapters 17 and 18, and as always I hope that you enjoy, and if you do, please consider subscribing. Chapter 17, Shantytown. We grab a cup of coffee and chat for a little while until I leave the diner. It's great catching up with Dad, especially since we haven't had much time to talk lately. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my body as well. Not in my wildest imagination could I picture that talk go so well as it did. Perhaps I should have known though. Dad will always be Dad after all. Smiling, I decide to walk back home while checking up on some things on my phone. First of all, since I finally managed to reach the city proper, I decide to find some maps and read up on some of the forums about what I can expect from Daenerys. It doesn't hurt to have a general map on hand, as well as some data on where the best place to set up shop would be. The more interesting part is to find out more about the Dark Pegasus Guild. They have really been a thorn in my side, and I need to know my enemy if I'm ever going to pay them back. Putting up the guild's webpage I find surprisingly well made. It's filled with links to top player feeds, images, ads, and a large recruitment post. My eyes are drawn to it, and I can't help but read through it. Dark Pegasus Guild is a large guild that aims to become the most powerful faction in Ascendance Unlimited. We number over 1,000 strong, and we welcome any skilled players who seek fame and fortune. In our guild you shall find either. If you think you are worthy of joining our ranks, know that we offer a salary if you prove yourself dedicated enough to the guild's cause. Send an email to one of our recruitment officers today and have a chance to stand at the center stage as we shape the future of Ascendance Unlimited. Well, I won't say the ad isn't ambitious at the very least. Those are bold claims right there. It doesn't say much about them, but I have no doubt in my mind that they must have some serious financial backing to be able to afford to offer a salary to a large number of people at this early stage of the game. Is it really that important to get ahead in this game? It seems like an awfully big risk to me, but that's their choice. I have my own plans for them. The risk factor may be high, but I won't ignore the fact that there is a really fat goose roosting on a Fabergé egg right under my nose. A smirk is spreading across my lips. I am going to look forward to this. Logging back in, I find my character sitting just where I left him. Looking around to get my bearings, I notice that my beggar has caught up to me and is now idling by my side. It probably looks a little suspicious, especially since I've already taken my villain's mask off, but I assume no one would bother showing up here anyway. Getting off my feet, I'm finally ready to psych myself up enough to venture into the city proper. It feels like ages since I started up this character, and it's weird to think that it hasn't even been a full day yet. How weird is that? Heading alongside the coastline, I review the information I gathered after I came back from my run. The main body of Daenerys makes up for 95% of the city. The rest of the city is the noob zone and the peddler's market right outside the city gates. Daenerys is built in a crescent shape around a small bay, divided into 7 different districts. The market district is the central-most area of the city, and it functions as a major hub for player activity. It's where you find everything that you could possibly need, really. All the markets and auction houses, the arena, the bank, the real-life money exchange stations, and tons of other buildings. In fact, if you will hardly ever see a player outside of this district, the only exception being crafters, people with personal homes like guild houses, or people doing social quests. Well, and villains, of course, which is what I'm really looking forward to. It should be easier to move around here than it was in the noob district. The last 5 districts of the Nobles District to the far east, the general residential area to the west and north, the harbour to the south and southeast, the Crafters District to the northeast, and the Shanty Town to the southwest, connecting to the Noob District. I spend about an hour studying a map of the city, as well as watch a few recordings of players walking around the place. My goal is to find an area to settle down in and stay out of the way from the other players, as well as to have a decent enough terrain to both hide in and attack with my underlings. The Nobles District and the Marketplace are obviously ruled out of this, and so is the Noob District. The Residential District is far the largest district and the easiest to hide in. But the problem is that the buildings are packed so tightly together. There are hardly any alleyways for me to utilize. The Crafters District, the Harbour, and the Shanty Town are my best bets, and I have decided to try and set up shop in the Shanty Town. I had to make some careful calculations to land on this choice. The downsides with the district are lack of commerce and thus quality-grade jobs for me to perform. On the other side, the Shanty Town is created like a maze of shacks and oddly placed warehouses. There are so many places to hide and get lost in that I can be virtually invisible. The major selling point for me, though, is that the district is the most sewage drains in the entire city. If my guess is correct, the sewers should be pretty similar, if not more complex than the sewer system in the Noob District. It could be a potential gold mine of experience points, hiding places, and logistics. It's exactly what I need to kickstart my Thief Lord career. Luckily, I don't have to travel to reach the shantytown. I soon find myself trading away from the rocky shore to the Noob District's peninsula over the half-rotten planks that make up the dockside of the shantytown. While technically still part of the Harbour District, the shantytown docks are the remnants of the golden era of Draenei's. Once upon a time, Draenei's was a beacon for the Imperia Empire, being the central trade hub connecting the 3 different continents together. As the Imperia Empire fell on hard times, so did Draenei's. The area used to be a collection of old warehouses, factories, 2 dry docks and a shipyard, but now it's a place where the poor and crippled gather. The city guards have all but given up on the place, and player activity is close to nil. Can you imagine a better starting area for me? It's infinitely better than the Noob District. Honestly, this place should be called the tutorial area for villains, not the other way around. Speaking of which, I wonder how to search concluded. I open up my friends list and write up a quick message for Anna. Ryan Staverton writes, "Hello, did you kids find what you were looking for?" I wait a few minutes, eagerly waiting for her reply. Anna L. Winrider writes, "Oh, hey Ryan, why do you ask?" Ryan Staverton writes, "No reason, it just sounded like it was a big deal. I was worried something bad happened." Anna L. Winrider writes, "Aw, that's sweet, winky face. It's not much to tell though. We thought we tracked her into the sewers, but there wasn't anyone there. I was so sure about it too. It makes no sense. It was like she was there for a moment, and then poof, completely disappeared without a trace. Can you believe that?" Ryan Staverton writes, I guess. "It sounds rough. So you came up with empty hands. Is there a villain loose in our midst?" Anna L. Windrider writes, "Nah, I don't think so. We did check on your tip around where you saw the female dwarf, but we found nothing. The going theory is that she tried to climb down the cliffs, fell down, and died. That might have been enough for her to delete her character in disappointment. Anyway, I had enough of that entire ordeal. What are you up to? Managed to make me a trap yet? Lol." I grin. It sounds like everything worked out for the best. Ryan Staverton writes, "I've made some progress, but nothing that's worthy of your time. I think I'll need a few more weeks and levels first. I was thinking about walking around the town for a bit and see if there are any nice people that need my help." Anna L. Windrider writes, "Lol, are you just going to do social quests for eternity? My offer to boost you to level 10 still stands, you know, winky face." Ryan Staverton writes, "Thanks, but no thanks. An old man like me likes to take his time to do things on his own way." Anna L. Windrider writes, "Worth a shot though, pouty face. Want to meet up for a drink or two?" Ryan Staverton writes, "No, sorry, I'll have to take a rain check. It's already morning, and I'm late for work." Anna L. Windrider writes, "Rejected," crying. "Well, definitely talk later. Have a nice day, XOXO. Ryan Staverton writes, "Have a lovely day, dear." Wow, pretending to be an old guy is actually really tiresome. What's up with that girl, though? Does she have a thing for old men, or is it just the way she is? Whatever the reason, she sure is a fountain of information. I am starting to feel a little bad for using her this way, but it's still a game, right? As a villain, I'm sort of expected to deceive her. It just feels like I'm crossing some sort of line that I shouldn't. Perhaps I should stop using her like this. I shake my head. It may feel wrong, and I will probably try to limit my abuse of our friendship, but I don't think that there's a way for me not to gain valuable information just by being near her. She isn't the most secretive type, and she seems to take and do everything with a light touch. Who knows? She might not even care that I know these things. She probably wouldn't be too happy about being lied to, though. But it's too late for that now. I open up my friends list and put on my online status to appear as offline to everyone. Now that I've committed to the story that I'm a fully fledged adult who is new to the game, then I can't afford to have Anna or Brian figure out that I'm actually online all the time. It's not the easiest explanation to have, but I figure that it's easier to explain my odd behavior by being old and eccentric rather than being young and stupid. With all of that out of the way, it is time for me to take the first step on the road to conquering the city. And to do that, I need to find a tavern. I make my way through the small cluster of shacks by the ocean side. There is one street that can be considered proper, and it cuts into the new district straight through the shanty town and into the market square. That leaves the majority of the shanty town and the myriad of makeshift wooden sheds and shacks, the worst of which is closer to the ocean. It takes a good while for me to find my way around. I end up walking into the 3 dead ends, 2 brothels, and a random mugging. Luckily, I wasn't the victim in the last one and managed to slither away before the thugs realized that I was even there. I eventually came upon the area that seems to be more proper than the other places. It's probably the only area in the entire district that has several 2-story buildings. The place used to be in the headquarters of a local trading guild while the city was still thriving. Now the houses remained abandoned and the drags and squatters of society have claimed it as their own. I'm about near what I believe is the old administrative building of the guild, which some entrepreneurs decided to rebuild into a tavern, but not before I send my beggar off to scrunch up some jobs in the neighborhood. I don't need him for the next part, and I don't like keeping my underlings idle. The tavern is the only 3-story building in the district, and it is located in front of a series of empty and abandoned warehouses. The tavern has only a handful of customers this early in the morning, but luckily none of them are players. I give a curt nod to the tavern keeper before I find myself a secluded booth in a dark corner. Giving the room another once-over, I activate one of my Thief Lord class's core abilities, Gold for Blood. The life of a villain is filled with violence. Many will perish, be it your friends or your foe. Life is precious, but like everything else, it has a price. You may pay for the blood with gold. Tier 1 Underling costs 5 copper per Underling. Human Hoodlum 3 Fighter. Human Cutpurse 3 Rogue. Wood Elf Spotter 3 Ranged. The cost of resurrecting is negligible, which is why I waste no time resurrecting my 3 fallen underlings. I could have decided to instead train 3 fresh recruits, but for only 5 coppers per life, I'd rather just pay the price and spend hours trying to grind the underlings up to the appropriate level. It may be cheaper now, but the price and penalties get steeper the higher my underling get. When my underlings reach tier 6 or 7, then I might have to consider if I actually want to bother resurrecting them at all if they end up dead. That's how harsh it can be. Playing a villain is no joke. It takes a few moments until the front door of the tavern opens up and my 3 freshly risen underlings step in. I get a deja vu moment when they all survey the room with a great care until they spot me and head over, nodding respectfully to me as they sit down. I smirk at the absurdity of it all, not one to waste time with tier 4 reunions. I open up my inventory and hand each and every one of them back their weapons and gear. The underlings have the same penalties as villains do when they die, so I need to take special care not to waste both their lives and their gear if I end up having to sacrifice them. Equipping the gear, the trio immediately returns to scanning the room for threats. It still irks me that they never bother to thank me, but I suppose I can forgive them since they actually did get them killed to save my own arse, just a few hours before. Regardless, resurrecting my underlings isn't the only thing I came here for. It's about time that I expanded my roster, and I have a few great candidates in mind. A budding thief lord can't do whatever he wants without a bunch of loyal henchmen, can he? End of chapter. Chapter 18. Investing in lethality. Grinning, I rub my hands together in a great anticipation. This is the part that I've been truly looking forward to. The most meaningful part of being in the summoner type class. Since I've finally gotten around to getting my charisma attributed to 30, I am now able to recruit 2 more underlings. With a final manic smile, I utter my 2 favorite words. Recruit underling. You have entered a tavern located in Naval City. You will be able to recruit underlings to bolster your ranks. Please select one of the following underling types. Recruit Fighter type underling, Recruit Rogue type underling, Recruit Ranged type underling, Recruit Agent type underling, Recruit Specialized type underling. Make your choice, Thief Lord. The familiar recruitment window. I put a lot of thought into what kind of underlings I need, and I believe I've decided on the most efficient option. I need a specialist. They are the backbone of any criminal organization, and it's what differentiates the Thief Lords from the most of the other summoner classes. The utility it offers is just staggering, but they also require a lot of time and energy to reach their full potential, not to mention a buttload of gold. I select the specialist option. Available specialists. Tinkerer. A chief thief has problems keeping his fingers to themselves. The Tinkerer turns it into an art form. They can craft anything from simple lockpicks to hidden compartments. You need it, the Tinkerer provides. Enchanter. A thief required a certain set of skills that may need to get augmented. An enchanter can provide these services most enchanters can't or won't do. Poisoner. The life of a criminal is filled with strife. Sometimes you need a little extra tip the scales in your favor. A poisoner can brew that extra something. Fence. Are your pockets full with unwanted goods? Allow the fence to lighten your load. Only gold is suitable replacement. I burst into a wide smile. These options are great. Basically, there are different types of NPC crafters who can make and provide goods that I can't buy or steal, as well as someone to dump my workload off on. I really love the flexibility they offer, but they have a certain downsides. A specialist won't level up in the normal way my underlings do, and they don't learn new things on their own. I have to provide everything for them, be it recipes, crafting materials, or tools to perform their trade. The upsides are that once I have required resources, they will be able to produce it, no matter what. The only limiting factor is that they cannot craft anything that is beyond my own current level. Yeah, it's weird, but that's game logic for you. I have to admit that it would be odd if a poisoner could create a poison capable of killing a level 100 player in one hit when I am below level 5 myself. Just because I had deep enough pockets. Games don't work like that, sadly. Or should I say, luckily. Regardless, the options are too tough to choose from. I only think I should get one specialist at a time, since I can't really afford to supply 2 crafters this early in the game. I will have to prioritize the one that gives me the best short-term benefits. The fence is out of the question since I don't really have anything to sell just yet. A fact that I'm planning on rectifying shortly. I've thought a lot about it, and I think the only logical option is the poisoner since it provides a raw boost to my underlings. Unlike the tinkerer and enchantment who only provide utility, I need to increase the lethality of my troops, and the poisoner seems to be the most reasonable investment for the job. I select the poisoner, which only leaves one slot open for a new underling. No matter how much I try to get another specialist, they won't matter if I don't have sufficient combat force. Therefore, I decide to add another hoodlum to the lineup. I noticed that in my fights earlier how strong the grapple skill is. The ability to immobilize and pin down enemies is invaluable in a fight where many fight the few. It is also a fact that I need more high-level meat shields on the front in my combat line. The cutpurse and the spotter are both valuable members of any outfit that I have, but they are reliant on the frontliner who can give them room to act. After a short while, my 2 underlings appear through the door, much like my other men. These 2 survey the room carefully before they come to sit down at my table. To my surprise, both of my new underlings are female. Not that it matters. This game doesn't differentiate between genders, like it should be. Both of them are geared the same way all my other underlings were when they were first spawned in. The female hoodlum has the same spiked club that my male hoodlum had, and her dirty rags have seen better days. My poisoner is slightly different though. Unlike the rest of my units, the poisoner doesn't have the same physique. The woman looks quite frail, even for an elf, with a noticeable hunchback and a hawked nose, and eyes that threaten to pop out of her skull. She almost looks like some sort of caricature of a witch from Greek mythology. I assume it's fitting, considering her profession. I inspect them for good measure. Dwarf Hoodlum 1, Underling, Fighter, HP 100 out of 100, Infamy Tier 1. Dark Elf Poisoner, Underling, Specialist, HP 60 out of 60, Infamy Tier 1. With my little gang up to full numbers, I decide that it should be time to get a move on. I won't be the best to just sit around admiring my minions all day. I take charge and head out the tavern, getting a good view of the surrounding area, ordering my units to take up a defensive perimeter around my poisoner and walk a fair distance behind me. I start moving closer to the southern edge of the shoreline. My goal for this little excursion is to see if I can find an entrance to the sewers that I assume is here, somewhere, as it seems that a prime location for me to grind some experience in relative safely from any encroaching players. We spend the better part of an hour walking from alley to alley, lifting crates, scouring the ground for any accessible hatch, but we come up empty. I'm almost ready to throw in the towel in rage when I suddenly find myself at the southern tip of the shanty town, finding a major sewage outlet that appears to lead beneath the harbour. I'm slightly surprised that the entrance was this huge, but when I think about it, it is really a secluded area. The only people who would bother exploring this far into the shanty town most likely wouldn't look twice at a possible sewer entrance. Who the hell would want to or be willing to enter a sewer anyway, even if it is virtual? Whatever, their loss is my gain. I am eager to finally grind some much-needed XP, and it should be much more comfortable when it don't have to look over my shoulder every minute. I have my 2 hoodlums take point, supported by my spotter. The cutpurse is to take up the rear as my poisoner, and I walk in the relative safety at the center of the formation. We pick up a slow pace as I'm uncertain what level the creatures are here, and even if there are any. It could be anything, and I really would be angry if I end up getting butchered by a bunch of mutated level 20 ratmen, or something. The sewers here are pretty similar to the sewers in the Noob district, only slightly larger. My underlings can walk 4 men across with little room to spare, which is enough for us to be able to overwhelm any opponent if they show up. We walk about 50 meters until my front line suddenly comes to a halt. Looking over my spotter's shoulder, I keep my eyes peeled for any hostiles. I stare down the dark tunnels for a few moments, spotting absolutely nothing. What's the hold-up? I ask, not really expecting an answer. The spotter grunts once as he points to the ground in front of the hoodlums. Slightly confused, I squint towards the area he's pointing at. It only takes me half a moment until the red outlining appears around a thin length of rope, stretching from one end to the tunnel to the other. Crap, is that a trap? I asked, only receiving a mute nod in return. Man, I really need to give myself some real conversation partners. This mute stuff is getting old. I crouch near the length of rope, inspecting it closely. I follow the length of rope to a small hook which seems to connect to a spiked wooden flail attached to the roof. It really is a crude and simple trap that couldn't possibly function in the real world, but it's a trap nonetheless. I'm almost a little proud of my deduction until I realize I'm masquerading as a trap maker, which means that I almost walked straight into the first trap that I ever came across. I am not sure if I could live up to shame if I got done in by a trap when I'm supposed to be an expert on such things. I think the reason that I couldn't spot it was because my perception attribute was pathetically low. The trap looks really low leveled 1, and I still couldn't spot it. Luckily for me, I don't really require any perception. I'm not a frontline fighter, and I'm constantly using my underlings for everything. Since both my spotter and cutpurse have reasonably high perception scores, they can do all the spotting for me. Even with a low perception attribute, it's not like my underlings can point things out for me like this. It's actually sort of a godsend, since I won't have to bother investing a point into perception going forwards. So, what the hell do I do with the trap? Do I intentionally spring it? None of my underlings have learned to disarm a trap skill yet, and I'm not sure that I want to leave it in this case I stumble upon it on my way back. Then again, as long as I remember it's there, then it shouldn't be a problem avoiding it. But that might be hard considering the next time we walk through here. We might have a horde of high-level monsters chasing us. Ordering my underlings to take a step back, I crouch and position myself to avoid the reach of the wooden flail. Poking the rope with the tip of my crossbow, I watch how the flail falls from the roof, swinging wide in the direction of where my head should have been. I get back to my feet and order my underlings to keep moving. The trap could be really effective given the right circumstances, and I need to put some serious considerations into actually investing a few trap-making skills. Maybe I should do it sooner rather than later. I abruptly am drawn out of my thoughts as a few loud screeching noises echo down the tunnel. Immediately halting in our tracks, my underlings grasp the weapons tightly and start walking slowly towards the noises. We only take a few steps until we come across a small group of monsters. Sewer Rat 5, HP unknown out of unknown. Sewer Rat 4, HP unknown out of unknown. Sewer Rat 5, HP unknown out of unknown. My jaw drops as the name tags appear. Level 4 and 5 monsters, and there's 3 of them. This might be hard. The rats have already spotted us, and 3 sets of crimson eyes turn in our direction. Move up, focus on the level 4 rat, try to cripple one of the larger rats and tackle the other one. I shout as I grab my crossbow. My 2 hoodlums charge forward to meet the incoming rats. My high-level hoodlum grunts in pain as one of the level 5 rats lunges at his chest, toppling them both over. I loose my bolt towards the level 4 rat, barely missing as the bolt slams into the ground in front of it. This causes the rat to stagger, however, allowing my spotter to cripple its leg with a well-aimed knife. Sensing an opening, the female hoodlum lunges at the level 4 rat, activating grapple as she goes. This leaves the remaining level 5 rats squaring off against the cutpurse. The rat recklessly charges at my cutpurse, who nimbly dodges every opportunity. He doesn't get any openings to counterattack, but at least he keeps the high-level rat occupied as we try to finish off the remaining rats. I quickly scurry and attempt to reload my crossbow as the sounds of combat intensifies around me. I already know that my underlings are severely underleveled, but the enemies are still rats. If I can take out just one of them, my superior numbers should be able to sway the battle in my favor. I finish reloading and raise my eyes once more to survey the battlefield. It's absolute chaos. My dwarven hoodlum failed at the grappling of the level 4 rat, and the 2 combatants are busy biting and hammering one another. The dwarf might have already fallen if it hadn't been because the spotter managed to embed 2 more throwing knives into the soft belly of the rat. The cutpurse seems to struggle against an opponent as I see that he has 2 fresh bite marks bleeding profusely from his wrist and his left foot. He is still standing though, drawing out his fight against the higher level rat. I frantically look around for my high-level hoodlum, but I can't see him. Last I saw them, they were both rolling down the tunnel further ahead. Frick! What do? I wheeze as I grit my teeth. If I let this continue, all of my underlings will die. I raise the crossbow, taking aim for the level 4 rat. My finger moves towards the trigger when I suddenly hesitate. Frick! I suck with the crossbow. I've hardly hit anything with it so far, and its purpose was only to be momentarily distract an opponent at every fight that I've had. I can't afford to miss another shot. My eyes flicker towards the cutpurse who fails to dodge a lunge from the high-level rat, allowing the rat to ram into his chest, knocking them both over. Frack! I curse as I run towards my downed cutpurse. The rat is crawling up his chest, aiming for his exposed throat. Its fangs are about to descend when my foot mercilessly connects with its head, sending it tumbling backwards. The rat shakes its head in confusion once before its eyes lock on me. I didn't spend my time idle, though, as I charged towards the prone body, aiming my crossbow at its face with a point-blank range. Eat this, I sneer as I lose the bolt, watching it impale the rat's skull. You have dealt 23 piercing damage, critical hit to Sewer Rat 5. The rat slumps forward, stunned by the critical hit. Before it can regain its senses, I slam the stock of my crossbow onto top of its skull, shifting the bolt slightly, causing massive damage. The rat rolls over on its back, reeling in pain from my onslaught. Movement appears at my side as my cutpurse slips past me, sinking a dagger deep into its throat of the dazed rat. Trusting in the advantage my cutpurse should have now, I turn around and charge back towards the place my dwarf and spotter struggle against the level 4 rat. The rat has already taken massive damage, and its body looks like a pincushion with 5 daggers sticking out of its body. My dwarven hoodlum doesn't fare any better though, and I can't understand how the little woman is still standing. Wasting little time on worrying about such things, I charge ahead, swinging my crossbow wide as I once more punt the weakened rat over. It tumbles backwards, rolling twice before it comes to a halt. Raising its head to glare at its attacker, its eyes widen as a final throwing knife penetrates its left eye, ending the rat's life in an instant. Snapping my head back towards the tunnel, I listen carefully for the sounds of combat. I rush forward, keeping my eye out for any missing level 3 hoodlum. I run about for 10 meters when I find the bend in the tunnel. Looking around it, I bear witness to a mortal struggle between my hoodlum and the final level 5 rat. My hoodlum is littered with scratches and bite marks, and a part of his ear is missing. The rat has lost its tail, and there are 2 deep gashes alongst its brown hide. The hoodlum is currently pinning the rat to the ground, while the rat has sunk its fangs deep into the fighter's forearm, both of them looking like they could keel over at any moment. I only give them a brief glance before I spring into action, raising my crossbow above my head. I take careful aim before I slam it downwards, putting the full force of a nearly 4-kilo heavy weapon behind the swing. The crossbow impacts the rat on its belly, causing the large snapping sound to echo against the tunnel walls as the spine snaps in two. Gasping in pain, the rat loosens its hold on the hoodlum, pulling its head back to screech loudly. My hoodlum sees this and quickly thrusts his sword at the rat, impaling its throat. Though the wet, scorching sound, the rat's body goes limp as the energy drains from its body. Holy frick! I mutter as I bend forwards, resting my arms on my knees. I can't believe that we did it, I say as I let my body slump to the ground. I take a deep breath as I calm myself. That was terrible. End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this batch video. If you enjoy the story, please don't forget to go and show the author some support. And if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below. The easiest way to support this channel would be to subscribe and share as much as possible to help this channel grow. And I'll see you all in the next video, and until then I hope you all keep well and safe. Cheers.